Okay, this is probably the last video from my little quick trip down to Munfordville, Kentucky. I'm along busy and noisy Highway 31 West, so I'm going to do the best I can. Hopefully I'm not yelling at this thing, but we'll do the best I can. Sitting here at the cemetery, which is across from the American Battlefield Trust property. So this is some of the stuff that I was ranting and raving a little bit yesterday, and I'm going to do a little bit more today, but we'll stick more with history initially. So Rowlett Station is down to our left in that direction. From here, a quarter to a half mile. The station itself is probably closer to a half mile down that direction. This section of 31 West is mostly the original alignment of the Louisville. No, that's not true. The Louisville-Nashville Turnpike will actually kick over and head down towards what is that? Horse Cave by another route. But this road was also here, and where I pulled off yesterday to go back to Rowlett Station's up there by where the red car is. A little farther north of that, there's a Rowlett Station historical marker up in that area. But across here is the battlefield, the core battlefield for Rowlett Station. And again, this property out here in front of me, I think it's something like 30 or 40 acres, is owned by the American Battlefield Trust as far as I know. I don't think it's ever been turned over to the local entity that's here. Now, the battle will actually take place on both sides of this road as the Germans of the 32nd Indiana, a couple companies will push down into this area and actually come down and flank around this high ground and push down, and they will threaten Hindman's artillery that he has here and force them to mount up and retreat. Anyway, the high ground on the other side there, Terry's Texas Rangers, you can't quite see, but there's a little bit of a high ground on the other side of those trees. The railroad, you might be able to see some ballast right there. The railroad's directly across here. I mean, we're only a few hundred yards from that. That's the high ground that Ketchum's battery, under the command of Lieutenant Garrity, would have initially set up on September 14th for the Battle of Munfordville, and before he split his sections into two. Talked about that on the videos I posted yesterday and mostly this morning because I didn't upload. Okay, so Terry's Texas Rangers will make several mounted charges against this area. You've got three companies of the 32nd Indiana, and I don't have my map with me, which is really unfortunate, at an angle behind a fence defending. More companies of the 32nd Indiana will come across the pontoon bridge and come down to reinforce. And so fighting is going back and forth. The 32nd Indiana will form square. One of the very few times during the Civil War squares actually form, but there are a few. In this particular case, though, is extremely effective because those Germans were fighting mounted cavalry from Terry's Texas Rangers. All right, so just a quick summary there. All right. You can read more about it in Michael Peake's book on Rowlett Station. Very, very much recommended. You can buy an abridged version here at the Hart County Historical Museum, which was interesting. I've got the full version. I think I got directly from Michael a few years back. So it's highly worth picking up for Rowlett Station. Okay, back to the rant. So you see what's going on over there. This was all just a field before, but now you've got trees growing up in it. Some of those are invasive. Regardless, this is the battlefield property. So, from this point here all the way up the road to where it ends, you could be putting in split rail fencing. This whole thing needs to be burned and then probably bush hogged and burned to get rid of all these woodies, and then, start establishing some native grasses in this area. Trail system, there's allegedly, again, two more interpretive panels out there somewhere. You can't quite see. I tried to find them from the road. You can't see them. But you could create a trail that runs behind those houses. And then where I was yesterday for Terry's Texas Rangers is just up the road here a little bit. If you see the sign, let me just zoom in here. That farther sign, not the historical marker, but the farther sign, that's for the fairgrounds, right? So that's directly across from Terry's Texas Rangers location, the south end, or what I would call the south district of the Munfordville battlefield. You could tie it in. You're only talking a couple hundred yards along the railroad, and hopefully the landowners would be amiable to that. Amicable? Either one. All right, so again, this whole thing needs to be burned. It needs to be interpreted, create trails, but this is right along 31. Again, in the distance, I can hear I-65. All right, we're not super close to it, but you can hear it in the distance. And you've got an exit 3 miles or so to the south, the Horse Cave exit. You can take the old L&N up, or you can go through Horse Cave and take 31 West up. And on the north end, you've got your exit for Munfordville proper. And you could put signage in this area directing people to this battlefield. You have some guided tours every year. Do an encampment out here every year. Get some of those German reenactors out here. See if they would come out and reenact out here, or at least do living history out here, right? So this is the property that I emailed the American Battlefield Trust about a couple years ago, and they didn't respond. And so I am asking you again, please, 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 light them up, friendly, nicely, of course, but send them messages saying what's going on with this property. How come it's not being maintained? It's turning into an unusable piece of property. You can't even get out on it. You can't walk through there. That whole thing is full of bramble, briar, multiflora rose. So, all right, that's it for this rant and rave. I'm done with this. I think we're completely done now for our trip. Anyway, hope you folks have enjoyed these short, political, sometimes non-political videos. Next time I come down, I swear I'll be more prepared to talk a little bit more about the battles that took place here. Just kind of getting back into this again, so I wanted to get down here. And again, here we are. We've pulled off into the cemetery. It actually has 2 entrances here. This could also be utilized if somebody wants to cross the road, if you had the way to get into that piece of property. All right, I'm done. Have a great one, folks.